G'day and welcome to the Game Day Squad NRL Fantasy Show. I'm Stu, that's Dill, and we are the Fantasy Bros. Back again, partnering with Game Day Squad to bring you all you need to know to succeed in GDS Rugby League Finals Edition. Well, Dill, I don't know how we're already here, and I'm a little sad to say so, but tonight marks the very last GDS Rugby League live show for season 2025. We're down to the two remaining teams, the Storm and the Brisbane Broncos, who will battle it out for Rugby League's ultimate prize this Sunday evening. But more importantly for us, it's the very last squad that we'll be building and the very last chance to win prizes for Rugby League this season. I'm excited for the grand final, but at the same time, extremely sad that the season will be over. Before we get into previewing that final and revealing who we're starting in our Game Day Squad teams, how did you go in the third week of finals last week?
Yeah, g'day Stu, g'day viewers and listeners. Look, apologies first. I might be a bit echoey. Today was moving day and the last thing left in my house is my setup for this. The show must go on, so important that I'm here. So apologies for that. Secondly, you forgot to mention that this is the last time we'll ever see each other. This is the only time we get to spend any time together. No, I'm just kidding. We'll be back as always for sure. Yeah, mate, look, week 3 of the finals probably didn't go my way as much as I wanted it to. The best finish I had was 20th in Challenger. I really needed something a bit more, and I took a few risks to try and get that sort of 100-odd points on. I think Prison Mike was at the top of the list at that time. I just really can't get the combination of pods right. I had a couple of really good pods in a couple of other comps, but then just couldn't get it all together. So hopefully this weekend I can finish off with a bang and have a bit of fun heading into the end of season and then into our off season before we get ready for the next lot of shows that we're doing. How about you, mates? You had a couple of good wins or a couple of close wins leading into the finals, into the grand final, I should say.
Yeah, firstly, congratulations on the move, mate. Well done. And I'm glad that you've ensured that the most important bit of gear remains so that, the show can go on. Yeah, look, you got a bit of an opportunity to have a bit of a go this week, bit of a dart throw at a couple of random players maybe to get up that leaderboard and find a spot into that, maybe that top 10 or even that top 3. For me, 6th and 9th in Champion and Challenger for the week. Sort of there and thereabouts in terms of striking distance for the overall glory. Probably closer in Champion, actually. But yeah, it's probably going to take something pretty special to finish at top of those leagues, given I think a lot of teams are going to be quite similar this weekend. So it might be, one or two really odd plays that not many other people are going to go for, and really just maybe crossing your fingers and your toes and hoping that they do something. But yeah, no, it's been really fun. Like the Game Day Squad boys didn't have to put on a finals competition, but it's kept the community engaged. It's been a heap of fun. And it just adds that little bit of extra. If your team's not playing in the grand final, you don't have a lot of skin in the game, you can still cheer on 18 players and hope that they can get the job done for you as well. So super excited for this game. Super excited for tonight as well, since it is, our last rugby league show for the season.
Yeah, our last rugby league show. And as I posted earlier today, we do have a few special guests coming on and joining us just to talk through how their season went and what they're looking forward to moving forward. Talking about that moving forward, obviously rugby league is about to be over, but there are still plenty of GDS to be had, still plenty of football happening. We've got the Big Bash kicking off at the start of December, and there's plenty of signings coming through there. So look, you can see that we are still winning, and there is no reason why you should leave us at all. We've got some success. Our viewers and listeners have had some success across a range of comps as well. You want to keep up with us, keep up with those tips, as well as any updates regarding teams in the future. We'll be coming to you probably early December, I'd say. The preseason shows for Oz Cricket will probably drop in early December, and then we'll get our live show sorted once GDS post the week-to-week competition that they'll have set out. But we're also doing plenty in terms of football over on Instagram and our Facebook as well. So just search at Fantasy Bros AU across all of the platforms so that you're up to date with everything GDS sport related. And look, obviously there's one more week to go in rugby league, but there's still plenty of time to sign up and jump into those other sports. You can use that promo code FBRL25. That'll give you 3 9-player common packs for rugby league. If you want to get a different sport, I have been told on good authority by Tom and Cal that we just need to let them know and they might be able to help us out with some other sports instead. Obviously, the rugby league season is over. So if you're still keen to get into one of the other comps, one of the other sports, let us know, use that code and get around it. Look, there's still plenty of cash and pack prizes, though, to be won this weekend, both in terms of just the week in itself, as well as the whole season. So still plenty of fun to be had for NRL.
That's right, mate. Yeah. So if our viewers and listeners are, at the pub, maybe at a mate's place, at a family barbecue or something, some Sunday afternoon, no better time to introduce them to the GameDay squad platform and challenge them in a bit of rugby league GDS for the Sunday afternoon grand final. You might not have a team playing, so get them to download the app, use that code FPRL25, and show them who's boss and get them hooked so that they're back and keen for a massive season 2026. Jill, you mentioned that we might have a guest or two on tonight's show. Before we get there, anyone know the whereabouts of Sif Kanga? He's normally in the chat. He's normally getting pretty rowdy. Sif, if you're around, mate, let us know, because I'd hate to be live and doing a rugby league live show without you in the room, mate. So let us know if you're around, buddy, or if anyone knows where Sif is, let us know as well, because I'm a bit worried that we haven't started getting rowdy with Sif Kanga yet. All right, did you want to introduce our first guest for the show?
Definitely. So before we jump into our player analysis, we thought we'd bring on a special guest who's been part of the show from the sidelines or from behind the scenes for the whole season as well. She's helped out with so many things, Game Day Squad, as well as Fantasy Bros. So we thought we'd get her on for a bit of a chat and to see how she has gone this season. And everyone's favorite, it is Melissa, Mel's Misfits. Welcome to the show, Mel. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Mate, I can see you've got the Storm scarf on there. That's your team. Obviously, back and forth about a few different teams you've supported, but you're going to go for the Storm this weekend.
Look, they were the first team I actually was lucky enough to see live, because them and the Bulldogs played in Adelaide, and I got around to the rugby league when they played. And then, of course, the Roosters played the Bunnies for a while here as well. And then that all finished up. So we don't get much league here, unfortunately.
Yeah, I love it. Unfortunately, you don't get more. Hopefully, there'll be some more coming your way. Look, we wanted to get you on and have a chat about how you went this season, a few other things. So firstly, how do you think you went in terms of someone new to Game Day Squad and figuring it all out? And how do you think you went across the season?
Yeah. So firstly, I'd love to give a shout out to some friends that said they were going to tune in today because I said I was doing it. Siana, Cece, and Nicole, who I work with, and Prasun, they all said they'll either jump into the live stream or watch it on replay.
Awesome.
And Paris, who's my partner. So awesome. He will be watching the replay with me a bit later.
I love it.
So I had a few high finishes throughout the league and throughout the season, and they did something called the Starter Cup, which is where I had the most success. Classic Cup we don't really talk about, but with Starter I got through a few rounds and managed to get some pretty decent prizes. And then of course you guys always do lots and lots of giveaways on the stream, which really helped out. And you also helped out with cards if anyone needed them. They jumped in your DMs, and you guys were massive in helping everyone out throughout the season. So a big, massive thank you. And I'm sure I'm not alone with thanking you. I'm sure lots of other people thanked you. So yeah. I think I got a couple of top 10s and maybe a top 5 across the season. But for my first season, I don't think that's too bad. I was still working out different games, and I was actually juggling both sports, so AFL and NRL. So sometimes I did better in one than the other. But I think that I actually got further in the NRL Starter Cup than I did the AFL, which is crazy for a sport I haven't watched in 3 years.
Love it. We'll make sure we slide you that $20 that we said we'd give you for all those nice compliments as well. No, just kidding. Look, and sorry, Stu.
And Mel, I don't like talking about the Starter Cup, to be honest, but you clearly outdid me in that as well. I think I got knocked out in the very first round of the Starter Cup and only made it to round 2 in the Classic Cup. So well done and congratulations for that. I'm really wondering, Mel, how did you get into Game Day?
So on my way to work, I actually play mobile games on my phone, and sometimes they make you watch ads. And a couple of times it was the Teddy ad, one of the Teddy ads. And I was like, surely they wouldn't get someone like James Tedesco to promote something that wasn't good. So I was like, okay, after watching it like 5 times, I was like, I'm going to have a look. And I jumped on and I was like, oh, this actually looks really good. It's better than some other fantasy sports because it's like I played games like Magic the Gathering and collecting cards and stuff like that is something that is fun. So it adds a exciting aspect to it where you open packs and collect the cards and that sort of thing. So I haven't looked back. It's one of the best communities I've been a part of. The Discord is amazing. There was a particular time, I can't remember which rounds it was, but there was a significant lack of winger choices because everyone was either injured or on the bye. I'm sure you guys remember it well. And there was a particular coach who doesn't really participate in the NRL, but I jumped into his DMs and said, hey man, do you have any of these wingers? Because I really, really need some decent wingers to chuck in my team. And that person was Flemington Nuggets. So I don't know if you know him much, but that's Jono from Flemington Nuggets. He's also been really solid and he is very helpful when it comes to needing cards. So he saved my NRL season a couple of times because he opened some packs and happened to have the cards I was chasing. So yeah, it was really, really good to have that sort of support. And you can just say, hey, does anybody have this card on the Discord? And you're going to get a reply in the Discord or you're going to get DMs saying, hey, yeah, I've got it. Chuck up a trade or I'm after this. So there's a lot of support around with the experienced coaches for the new ones.
Unreal. Yeah, firstly, big shout out to Flemington Nuggets and everyone else that helps out with all of the trades. I know there's always a bit of chat that happens, people scrambling last minute to try and find cards. Even some experienced players who have been around for a number of years are always looking to find an extra card or two as well. So
like even Dan's Dynamos, there's 2 Dans and I keep getting them mixed up, but they've both been very helpful as well. Stephen, Cossy's Posse, like there's just, the list goes on. I'm sorry if I've forgotten anyone, but everyone's been just so helpful.
I think you forgot 2 names there, and that was Penrith and Prison Mike. I don't think you mentioned them at all.
Should we also give a shout out to Jax while we're here?
And Jax as well, definitely. Yeah, they've definitely been helping. Mate, look, obviously big year for you. Like you said, you were juggling the Aussie rules, which you're a massive fan of, jumping into rugby league as well for the first time. In terms of next steps, what are you looking forward to in the future in terms of GDS?
Look, I think that because it's a dynasty platform, you get the cards the next year. So I've started building towards the future as well as this year. This year's almost wrapped up, so we've really only got to get through the weekend and then it's off season. So realistically, I've got a couple of cards off the trade market that I think will go huge next year. So building on that and have like entering the little side comps and stuff that they have. Like I'd love to see Starter Cup make a comeback. I know that they focus a lot on the Classic Cup, but I think in terms of new coaches, Starter is where it's at because most people will have bronzes and enough to get a full team in without, worrying about salary pods and things like that.
But awesome.
Yeah, and everyone needs to make sure they check their emails as well. I think a survey went out today and get some really good feedback for the Game Day Squad boys regarding, a lot about how those competitions might look like for the future and, some of the challenges that new players are facing when they're joining the platform and, coming up against a lot of the experienced people that have been around for a number of years. So make sure you get your feedback via that email. And if something like the starter comp is something that you've really enjoyed, make sure you let the boys know that that's what's worked really well as a new user. So that they can make sure that they keep making sure, the new people coming to the platform are still having plenty of chances to succeed as well. All right, Mel, you've got the Melbourne Storm scarf on. Let's talk grand final quickly. Who are you going for in terms of match winner? But then who's your biggest pod and lock in terms of Game Day Squad? So who do you think is going to score the most points? And have you got a pod that you don't think many people are going to play that could pay off? You can keep it secret if you want. But Dylan, I don't keep to share if you like.
All right. So I hope Melbourne wins, but I really think that Brisbane have just been too strong. I mean, after knocking out Penrith, if they don't win the grand final, it's, kind of like, how did they get past Penrith? Because Penrith were the team to be in the finals, not so much earlier in the season. But I really hope the Storm get up over the Broncos, but I think it'll be a pretty close game. In terms of locks, I've got a few that I've kind of put down as, you play them weekly anyway. So Hughes, Katoa, Staggs, Ricky would be a lock. But it has to be Haas, doesn't it? Big Pain Haas.
Yeah, for sure.
He can get injured and just keep going. Like, let's be real. Like, he's a beast. I can't describe it any other way. Like, he will get injured, he'll go off the ground, and you think, oh, his game is done. You look at his score and think, oh yeah, acceptable. But then he comes back and adds more points on. So it all comes down to the salary pods for Haas. I think if you can play the highest rarity, do it, because he may cost you. And now I've said that and backed him, he may go really badly. In terms of pods, there's a few names that I don't actually recognize in the list, like Warbrick, King. I haven't seen King play much, or Blore. I feel like, and then for Brisbane, Piakura. Like, they're all names I haven't seen much of. So I've seen that they've been playing a bit, but I haven't actually seen the game. So to me, they would be pods. And not many people, I think, would play them or have played them. So it comes down to, if you've got their card, you're going to maybe have to play them. The choice may be taken out for you because, the limited amount of teams that you have to choose from.
Yeah, love it. And I tend to agree. And that's something I think I had down in my notes, is that I think a lot of coaches this weekend are going to be forced to play some of those players that we haven't talked about, haven't looked at, or haven't even thought about all season. So I think some of those names there, like you say, not a lot of coaches will know them or be thinking of them, but it's probably someone or a few players there that you need to be thinking about, because they're the cards that you have. Finally, Mel, before we let you go and enjoy the rest of your night, do you have any advice for anyone that's sitting on the fence thinking, do I join GDS or do I go and look at a different fantasy platform? What's your advice for those people?
I say just give it a go, because at the end of the day, if you use some of the sign-up codes that are available, you get free packs to start with. You get free packs just for playing weekly. You don't have to spend any money. That's the cool thing about it, is I didn't spend money for the longest time, but I was winning packs. There's so many competitions. There's surveys. If you do a survey, you get rewarded, and there's just, the guys at GDS look after you, right? If you're on the Discord, there's competitions. You can level up and get coins via the Discord, buy packs. You can trade. You can speak to people and get some cards. Like, there's just so many different options that you don't actually have to spend money in. And earlier I was watching the basketball stream, and the same thing. The guys haven't put any money into it, but they've been lucky enough to win some rounds. You win rounds, you get rewarded and get cards from that. So you can build it slowly into next season, or you can build it quicker by investing some money and going on the trade market and that sort of thing. So, yeah.
Unreal. Awesome. Thank you so much, Mel. Not just for tonight, but for the whole season. You've been a massive supporter of us, a massive supporter of GDS. And I know the boys at GDS, and as well as all of the other coaches, have really appreciated you jumping on and helping out wherever you can, and making sure that you're promoting everything to do with GDS. So we really appreciate your support, and we really appreciate the opportunity that you've had to, put some time and effort into this community as well and building it. So thank you for that, and thank you for tonight and sharing your thoughts.
No worries. Just before I go, I do want to highlight that last week the boys hosted a little poker game on Discord for some diamond cards, And if you knocked either Tom or Cal out, you got their card that they had up, and I walked away with all 4 cards. So yeah, I think that they do fun things like that, where you have a chance to win stuff. And yeah, I had to leave the table because I just got too much money. So they're like, get off. But yeah, it's the little things like that the boys do, the bingo nights, they do so much for the community and do community events and stuff. And on that, I'm really looking forward to the community event that you guys announced last week, where there's going to be some online gaming, and perhaps some hard lemonades themed, where you can challenge a bro and win prizes. So that's another way that you can get it. So thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Mel.
Thank you.
Have a good night, mate, and we'll see you soon. Alrighty, thank you again to Mel, and like she said, plenty of opportunities to continue to win. Look, I wouldn't want to play her in poker at all. Before we jump into our next little bit, where we're going to start previewing our teams, we're going to be joined by another special guest who will be previewing teams with us. And it looks like while Stu is getting himself ready, welcome GameDay Tom. Here he is.
How good's Mel? She's just flexing on everyone now. She just pumped us in poker the other day, but she really did. So to her credit,
Good.
Gave us a good touch-up.
I love that. I love that. Look, Stu looks like he's lost his internet, so we'll push on. Before we do that, we've got a few comments from, I believe it's Prison Mike. He maybe don't watch your phone while you're driving. He said, I watch my phone when I drive too. Maybe don't do that. We don't condone that. But he's also obviously having a bit of a dig at everyone as well. Don't tell the other 2 people in here your secrets, Mel. I think he's talking about you and I, Tom.
Oh, no. Don't. The Prison Mike himself. He's going
Prison
at us,
Mike,
is he?
He's here. I love it. Mate, while we're waiting for Stu to get back in and we can chat some footy, how did you go this season with your rugby league squad? Did you have a bit of success there?
Yeah, look, mate. There's a good saying in fantasy, in life, is that the blind squirrel will eventually find a nut. And I'll tell you what, my highlight of the season was winning a round of contender and getting an all-star card. I can't say I was ever consistent. I can't say I gave it the love and time that I needed to do weekly to, have a good crack. But what I can say is I did put a squad together every round, and eventually it can come good. And it did in my case, and I'll be getting an all-star in a week or two's time when they all drop, and I'm pretty excited about it.
Love that. Love that. Is there one particular all-star you are keen to get into your hands? Obviously, you don't control that. We'll put that out there.
Yeah. Look, the one for me is going to be Terrell Davis May. How could you not want a Terrell May? Other than that, I guess it just has to be Cleary. He's the chin, the crimson chin, the GOAT. But I'll take whatever I get because it's going to be my first all-star either way for rugby league, and I will definitely get some love and use next season. So no complaints.
Awesome. Love it. Welcome back, Stu, mate.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Welcome, brother.
All right, let's jump in. Obviously, we're just chatting some game day squad and Tom having a couple of wins. And getting an all-star card. So let's push on and jump into it. So we've got the grand final this weekend, 6:30 Sunday, Australian Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you get your times right. I believe it needs 7:30 with potentially that daylight savings happening as well. So the Melbourne Storm up against the Brisbane Broncos. Obviously, team list there, that one change for the Broncos, I believe, with Paddy Carrigan making his way in and Tolte being the unfortunate recipient of missing out in the squad. Firstly, boys, who do you think is going to take out the grand final? Tom, we'll start with you, mate.
Take out the grand final. Look, it's going to be a tight game either way. I really think it's going to be a cracker. We're going to see 2 really informed teams go head-to-head in it. My gut is telling me the Broncos will do it. They'll get it done. I just feel like they've been tested so many times over this finals already, and this is just the final little hump they have to get over to make it there. And they've been so close so many times. being devastated only, was it 2 years ago in the grand final where Cleary had one of the greatest performances of all time. They were able to put that demon behind them literally last week. So I think that it's just this perfect storm of everything finally coming together for them. And now that that's past them, they're just going to they've got nothing to lose. They're going to go into it. They're going to be firing. And I do think they'll come out with the win.
Stu, do you agree with Tom? The Broncos are going to take it out?
Choice of words there, mate. But
very.
I think I'm still having a couple of issues here with my internet or something. But I tend to agree there with what Tommy said there. I think the Broncos have gotten past, the Raiders and Penrith. They looked like they weren't going to win either of those games, but they really stood up in that final 15 minutes. I think if the Storm are up 14-0, I think you can all but put Brisbane in for a win there. So I think that's what really matters. If the Broncos are behind at halftime, I think they're every chance of winning. So I don't think Brisbane want to be in a position where they're out in front and they've got to hold on to the win. That's just not how they're playing footy, is it? So the Storm might be wary of that, and it might be a bit of a battle for who can get behind, so that they throw the other team out of kilter. But it's probably just the extra minutes in the legs for the Bronx. They had that really tough 95-minute game against the Raiders. They had to run until the 80th minute there against the Panthers, whereas the Storm have had two probably easier finals matches. They've also had the extra 2 days rest and recovery time, which in a grand final week probably goes a long, long way. Added to that, the amount of grand final experience that they have. Cameron Munster has played in 6 grand finals and won 4 of them, I think. So that's going to go a long way, obviously. For a lot of the Broncos, they were there in 2023, but for some of them, it is a brand new week. And that's obviously got to be pretty difficult. So there are pros and cons for both teams. Bronco probably the form team, but the Storm have the experience. I just can't wait.
Yeah, love it. Look, I'm a little bit torn. I'm keen for the Broncos to get up. Living in Brisbane, I'd love to, be a part of that win. And obviously, we had the Brisbane Lions in the Aussie Rules, the AFL last week, get up as well. But my son, who I've talked about a couple of times, is a Panthers supporter. After they lost, he's decided that he now hates the Broncos and he's all over the Storm. Today he's sent a photo through and he's really keen on the Storm. So I feel like I have to go for Storm just to make sure we keep him appeased. And, and there he is. It's Cyclone Harley. There he is there with his little Storm cookie that he's just made for the grand final. So, I think I might have to go for Melbourne Storm this weekend, boys. I'm sorry. I might have to stick with my son there on this one. I just think they're going to be too good. Like Stu said, the experience of Munster, even Hughes as well, they've been in the big arenas. Grant, they play the big games. They know what they're doing. And I just think they're just going to be too clinical.
Mate, that's absolute jokes. And I'm not sure, with age and everything, but is this the first grand final he can remember that Penrith haven't won? Because he looks quite young, right? So he probably just thinks it's the standard. Every year, Cleary comes, wins the granny. That's just how it works. So, he's had to face heartbreak for the first time. So poor young fella, but he's going about it the right way. He would do the same thing that I would do. So credit to him.
No, it's not what I do when the Warriors lose, that's for sure. Alrighty, let's jump into the teams. Obviously, we've talked for half an hour and had a bit of fun, but we're here for one reason. That's to look at who we're playing this weekend in the final GDS competition. And let's kick it off with hookers. There's not really many options here. Obviously, the main player is Harry Grant that we're running with. Is there any other reason to go anywhere else? Stu, we'll kick it off with you. Is there any look at Pax at all as potentially a pod?
No, look, there would have been if Ezra Mann wasn't named on the bench. He played almost that about 80 minutes in that game against the Raiders. I think he only had a spell because he hadn't played that much footy in a match before. But look, if Mann wasn't there, it probably means that Hunt stays in the halves for the whole game and they probably trust Pakes to go the distance or at least sort of 60 or 70 minutes. But that's not going to happen. We saw what the Broncos are going to do. They're going to keep Mann on the bench. Hunt will play in the halves for the first half an hour. Pakes will just have to tackle and try to put Stefano on his back as often as he can, and then he'll have a nice spell and watch the rest of the 50 minutes from the bench. Benny Hunt will then move into hooker for Mann to come on. So, no, it's going to be Harry Grant. He should be in 100% of teams here. We talk about him every week as probably the top 2 hookers, and it's just his missed tackles that are a big concern. But look, this is a grand final. He's going to be doing absolutely everything he can to get the job done for his team. And I think we're going to see him a little bit more dangerous running out of dummy half either side of the half-time break. I think he's going to try to find, Xavier Willison, Kobe Hetherington, and try to target those blokes and try to get a bit of a roll on through the middle of the field there. We know he's super dangerous close to the line as well, whether he scores or hits a middle forward over close to the line. So, yeah, I think he's an absolute lock, and I wouldn't be looking anywhere else.
Yeah, unreal. And Tommy, are you just going to load up on Harry Grant and maybe put your highest rarity card into some of those higher competitions?
Yeah, look, I think Harry Grant's the obvious choice here. Shouldn't really overthink it. I think where this will be won is the forwards and who you're going to pick through that middle there. Do you load up with one team thinking they're going to dominate? Do you not? But at least for the hooker spot that you've got to fill, Harry Grant is the layup, and just do it. Just get him in. Don't think about it too much, and enjoy knowing that he should play the full game or just about.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the big thing, the 80 minutes for me. And the 100% owned as well means that we can load them up with salary, whether we're playing classic or contender as well, and put your highest rarity in there and you get your most points, most bang for buck there. Alrighty, let's jump across the middles. And this is where we've got quite a few options that we can look at. We can see on the screen there, we've got Udic Manu, we've got Liero, Willison, Haas, Carrigan, and Hetherington as well. On top of that, we also have some other players in people like Corey Jensen, Josh King, Kamakamitha, etc., that we probably won't be looking at, but they're definitely options as well for those that may not have some of these cards that we talk about, which is obviously important. Look, I'm going to assume that we're all playing Payne Haas and probably combining him with Stefano, and then maybe following it up with Paddy Carrigan. I know that's what I'm doing, and then looking at potentially a couple of different options across different competitions. But my main three are going to be Haas, Udic Manu, and Carrigan. Tommy, obviously, it's well known. You love David Fafita. You love some of the big boys up front. Is Udic Manu starting to get in that range for you?
Oh, absolutely. He's actually my must-start, load-up salary cap player for this one. I feel like he's been the most consistent performer for the Storm over this final so far, and this game's going to be so important through that middle. He's going to really have to step up. He's got the biggest challenge with Payne Haas and Carrigan and those likes in front of him. And if he's not up and about, I think it could be a long day for those forwards there. So I think he's going to understand this, the extra couple of days of rest, as you mentioned before, Stu. He's going to know what's going to be on the line here and how well he's going to have to come out to get them going. So I expect a massive performance from him. And I agree, Haas is a freak. Doesn't matter how many minutes he plays. Just get him in. He's just the potential to break the game at any time. And then Carrigan's coming off a week of rest, right? So he should be the fittest player heading into this game. So a little confused. Like, who knows how he might get used, because I know they've used him a little differently over the season, the Broncos. But I think that understanding that in particular and having such a tough game only a couple of days ago, they're going to want to use him as much as they can. So definitely must start as well, those three.
Yeah, mate. Haas and Carrigan are the clear leaders of that Broncos forward pack. Carrigan, like you said, definitely fresh. I think he's going to be tasked with trying to stop that man in Big Stefano. He's been on an absolute tear, breaking tackles at will, offloading. He got 90 points in that first match, 55 again on the weekend. So he's had a really good final series. And you just got to question, where that's been all season, not just in Melbourne colours, but in the sky blue as well. But hopefully, he's a player that we continue to talk about next year. And he can go on after a big performance in this grand final. I think Paddy Carrigan, we'll get through plenty of work through the middle. He's going to play 80 minutes. He's the captain. He's so important. He's fresh. And I think he's got a big job in making sure Stefano is as limited as possible. And Payne Haas, just an absolute robot, isn't he? He can just go all day long. I saw a really interesting stat. Back in the 2000, made 45 interchanges when the interchange rule wasn't implemented, where it was unlimited interchanges. Some of the forwards were going off it after the 7 and 8 minute mark, whereas they're capped to 8 interchanges, and Payne Haas can go the full 80. Gee, times have changed, haven't they?
Yeah. For the better, I say. I couldn't imagine fantasy output playing 7 or 8 minutes on the park, that's for sure. Look, talking about fantasy output though, the thing that I guess we probably have to temper our expectations a little bit, Paddy Carrigan, he has been named at lock. It's a position that he played, as Tommy said, sort of in and out throughout the season. Mostly the second half of the season, he sat there and played that lock role quite a lot. He averaged 41 at that position against top 8 sides since round 16. but he averaged 65 on the park. So his points per minute are down quite a lot there. And I think that's due to what Haas does. And he obviously takes on that big load. And as a result, Carrigan's output probably diminishes a little bit. So we probably should put a little bit of a disclaimer there that, look, Haas is going to get a majority of the work. You're probably right in that Carrigan's going to get time on field. But then hopefully they don't eat into each other's role, and Carrigan, has that nice role as well, and he doesn't just turn into that linking sort of lock that we have seen in the past as well. So I'm still loading up on Carrigan, but it's just sort of tempering that expectation around how many points we expect from him, just due as his PPM, I think. Look, before we go on, we have had Sif Kanga arrive. We have found him. He is here. So it is time to get rowdy. Thank you that he is here. Love to see it. Sif, good on you, mate, for joining us as always. Okay, so those three are locked for us. We're happy to run those. Obviously, we've got 2 bench spots with limited hookers. I feel like none of us are going to play an extra hooker on the bench. There's not many edges either. So are we just looking at the 2 middles that we're going to play on the bench, or are we going to go that middle edge and sort of look for an option? Stu, you nodded your head there with 2 middles. Are you pretty happy to run those 2 middles?
Oh, yeah, mate. Yeah, like you said, not many options. Definitely not in the hooker position. There are a couple in the edge forward spot, but look, they're probably more so lottery tickets and just hoping they find their way to the try line once or even twice, and then you'd be laughing. For me, it's going to be the work that some of these big boys get through the middle. We've already spoken about 3 guys that are likely to get at least 55 minutes or 60 for Stefano and Carrigan, but it wouldn't surprise Carrigan and Haas pushing that 80 minutes. Back in round 23, Carrigan did play 80 minutes against the Storm. He made 50 tackles. I think the similar role to Carrigan for the Melbourne team will be that of Trent Liero. So he'll get a spot for me on my bench for sure. I think he's going to get through plenty of minutes. I think he'll get close to 70 minutes. He could even be tasked with playing a full 80 and be a really similar sort of tackle pain Haas every time he gets the footy. Don't let him offload. He's got plenty of experience. He played, for the Queenslanders this season as well, and actually outplayed Paddy Carrigan and won that number 13 jersey over him. So, yeah, I think he's going to have a big grand final. It wouldn't surprise to see him play 80. And if a middle forward's playing 80 minutes, it just means more tackles and more runs. So I think there's, plenty of safety in Trent Liero. And then I'm going to couple that with a little bit of upside in big Xavier Willison. He's not going to get the big minutes, but he is going to pack a bit of a punch off the bench. Look, him and Kobe Hetherington will probably find their way into 2 of my squads each. But I think, the Broncos know what a weapon they have in Willison. They're going to use him close to the line. And, it wouldn't surprise me to see him score a nice big grand final try.
Yeah, I love that. And look, just on Willison, I think he's going to have, a massive future. So if you're going to get hold of any Willison cards that you might not own now, jump onto the trade market and see if you can get some, because I think it's, as Mel talked about that dynasty aspect, I think he's going to really grow into that role and maybe be sort of a Haas 2.0 in the future. So, Tommy, we've got a couple of middles there. Are you going anywhere different, or are you just thinking locking your 2 middles and just take a bit of risk elsewhere?
Well, I guess the beauty and the beast about the finals is that you sort of need to use the cards that you have available to you. And, I actually don't have Willison, so I need to look elsewhere, which is great. I guess it's part of the challenge of squad building. And so I'm definitely on the Trent Liero train. I do think he's going to get some impactful minutes. I have him in, but I'm splitting with another edge that we might talk about in the next part of this. So I'm going 1-1. I am splitting it.
I like it. Look, as we said, there's obviously a few other cards out there and there's a few other middles that you can play. The only one that I'm probably avoiding, and obviously you might be restricted in the cards that you own, but Josh King is probably a big avoid for me. And that's purely just the work that he puts out. Throughout the regular season, he saw an average of 53 minutes on the park. He only averaged 38 points across those 53 minutes. So that PPM is just not where it needs to be for a middle. And the thing for me is that his tackle break to missed tackle ratio is horrible as well. He's averaging less than 1 tackle break a game and almost 2 missed tackles a game as well. So that's just way too skewed for me. So I think out of all of those names, I think Josh King's probably the only one I would avoid. Someone like Hetherington, I think would get a run if you didn't have maybe a Willison as well. So for me, just look at avoiding King. And if you need some other cards, please hit us up. If we can find some bronzes or silvers for you, we will definitely see what we can do there. Alrighty, let's jump into...
Yeah, I see upside in Willison and safety in Kobe if you've got both of those options to pick from. Dill, you mentioned that you were probably going to play, and Tom as well, maybe an edge forward on the bench. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. For me, there's two standouts in Eli Katoa and Jordan Riki. I'd be really hesitant to look elsewhere. So who's going to talk me into
Mate, I'll let Tommy
options?
go first. He's the guest. He can convince us.
I don't know if I'm going to talk you into it. That's funny. But do you know who I am going to play? The two standouts, I think you're right. Like, you just got to look at the output for them over the season. Pretty Ricky, Katoa in there at the edge spot. I guess it's deciding that next person. For me, it's Sean Bloor. As I said, I don't have as many forwards. And honestly, I think a lot of people might be a little like-minded to you, Stu. And if you are going to try to get an edge, or, you want to play things a little different, you're going to have to pick a couple pods and, maybe take a couple of risks in some competitions, whether it's the starter, whether it's contender, and you load up on a salary cap on a pod or not. But I know my bread and butter isn't going to be beating you in the numbers and beating you in terms of thinking this through. It's going to be in just something random happening. And I guess you might see that play out a little bit as we go along. But yeah, I'm going to take a couple risks, maybe do it a little different and go against the grain. But nonetheless, Sean Bloor's had a pretty great year. He's a really good option, but it is going to be a very tough matchup against the Broncos. It's probably why you're a little more hesitant and looking towards the middles, knowing they're going to get high tackles and just have that sort of safe floor. But Sean Bloor's coming in for me. Dill, what about you?
Yeah, I don't mind Sean Bloor. Look, he's averaging about 40-odd in base and power, so that's a decent little base to sort of set on. I guess that the attacking upside's probably not there compared to some other edges. Storm still allow 38 or so GDS points to left side edges, which is interesting. We go to the other side and we have a look at, in terms of Piakora, excuse me. I think I'm going to take Piakora over Bloor because of that right and left side that the edges are giving up for the Storm. So I think I might go with that sort of vulnerability there from the Storm in going someone like Piakora. He hasn't really done a lot this season. He's sort of stuck around that sort of 23, 24 average. That's a little bit concerning, but just with the potential vulnerability of the Melbourne Storm on the edges there compared to the Broncos, I think I'm going to go with Piakora as probably my pod in a few other comps. I think in my main competition, I'll stick with the five middles, but then just mix it up a little bit in a couple of the other competitions. Similar, like you said, I guess, Tom, is that, if you don't necessarily have all the cards and you want to play something a little bit different, just pick a player and have a go. You never know. One of them might crash over for a try. They might have a big game. Sean Bloor has an opportunity. He scored the final game of the regular season. So I think he's got every chance of doing that. And Piakora always seems to be on the field and has a dig. So I think, no matter what, like you said, if you're looking for a few different options, then probably the edge is one of those where you can take a bit of a risk and play someone a little bit different, because that floor and ceiling is probably not that different for edge forwards, except for probably the big exception is Ali Katoa, which I'm going to assume that will be pretty much 100% played. So there's another opportunity to load up on some of that salary.
Yep.
12 tries for Eli Katoa this season. Jordan Riki, a couple more than the other two in Piakora and Shawnee Bloor. Any guesses how many tries Piakora and Bloor have scored this season compared to Katoa's?
Probably
12?
3.
Anyone?
Yeah,
close too. Both of them have scored 2.
There you go. I was pretty close. Alrighty, I think the next position is probably a really good one to maybe play a few differences here. Look, we've obviously got the Melbourne Storm combination of Munster and Hughes, and they obviously stood up and had a massive game last week. But there's also the returning Adam Reynolds, who put in a good spell against the Panthers, and then Benny Hunt has this new role that's been carved out for him that I really like. So let's talk some of the halves that we're looking at. Is someone like a Hughes Munster combo just going to be an absolute lock, and then you're looking at some variation across your teams with a couple of the Broncos, or are we probably thinking just a little bit too simple here?
I'll kick things off. Yeah, I think Hughes and Munster, absolute locks. For me, it's their wealth of grand final experience. I said before, Munster, he's played in the grand final on 6 occasions. He's won 4 of them. Hughes has won 2 of the 3 appearances he's made. That obviously goes a long, long way to a week like this. The preparation's pretty different. You know, the training actually gets reduced quite a lot, and really it's all about just how prepared they are mentally, and hoping that everything can come together for this last match. You know, they already went down to Sydney pretty early. They got a couple of, you know, appearances to make for the public. They've got the grand final breakfast. It's a completely different week, and experience obviously is going to go a long, long way here. So Hughes wasn't played in many of my teams last week, and he looked outstanding despite, you know what, he's still got a fractured forearm and he has got that busted shoulder. So he did everything to show that he's right and ready for this week. Cam Munster's the absolute GOAT in terms of grand final appearances and experience across the board here. So yeah, for me, those 2 absolute locks, and then the third spot I think will be pretty interesting amongst the likes of Benny Hunt, Adam Reynolds, and maybe even Ezra Mam. He could be the absolute ultimate pod, depending on when he can get onto the field. Anyone willing to go there?
I'll skip on that
one. I'm not. I did see someone today put a bet on, and not that we condone betting, but Ezra Mam is $29 to win the Clive Churchill, and they put a bet on that to happen. I sort of shook my head and I thought, I don't think that's going to happen at all. But mate, you never know. Can he repeat his
3 tries?
Yeah, you never know. Tommy, are you sort of thinking the same thing? Hughes, Munster, and then pair them with, or add the third in across your different comps, or are you sticking with 3 sort of solid options?
Yeah, I like the Melbourne duo there, the 7 and the 6. Moneybag Munster, you just never go against him in a big game. This has him written all over it. Even if they're down, he's just always the one that will change the momentum. He'll just do something and just pull it out of you know where. And then you're just sitting there like, how has he pulled this off? He's got him back into the game just off his own boot or just off a freak play. Jerome Hughes, as you said, Stu, looks really good. Plus, he does the kicking, does the goal kicking, does all the little things to sort of tick over some points. I guess it's interesting, the third one. Does Reynolds do the goal kicking in this game with Walshy having a bit of struggles? You could say last game he didn't look very clean off the boot, a lot of them, even the one he did get. And then Reynolds said, no, it's my time here. I'm going to win this game right at the end, which I thought was pretty big, because I know normally that can be a bit of a battle between players and maybe an ego thing, but he gave it to the old bull and Reynolds, and he drilled it for the game. So if he does kick, I think it helps him a little bit. But I currently do have Reynolds in. I know Hunt and sort of the role you're talking about coming into hooker, I guess, for that tail end, and he'll be in the middle, potentially get a lot of tackles. High upside play, but also a little scary. Could have a lot of missed tackles. Could also get a bit of demerits through there as well during that period. So it'll just depend on whether they're sticking for him or not.
Yeah. I'm a little bit torn, because I love the combo of Hughes and Munster, but I actually have someone else that is currently on my list as my number 2 half. And that's Benny Hunt. And I think that means that he might be a bit of a pod. And I actually believe in the Ben Hunt redemption arc. Look, rewind a number of years ago, Golden Point, Jonathan Thurston kicks the ball off, Ben Hunt drops it cold in front of the sticks, and that is essentially game over. I feel like maybe it's time for Benny Hunt to come back and right some wrongs, and I'm on board with that redemption arc being activated. Look, we talked about the lineup's almost identical for the Broncos. It means Hunt's going to probably play that 80-minute role again. Mam comes in, pushes Hunt to hooker, and that's, I think, where he's going to have his biggest impact, rather than that sort of just catch and pass half. I think it's going to be in that hooker role. During the season, he played hooker a number of times. He averaged 41 in base and power across about an average of 60 minutes on the park. So it increased that to 80, and we're looking at something more like a 50 to 60 in base and power potentially, if that trend continues. Last week against the Panthers, he did come away with only 40 GDS points with that same thing. So sort of very similar. Whereas Reynolds only had 34 points in that game. And obviously, it was a low scoring game in terms of NRL, but there was a lot of ball in hand for the Broncos as well. And I think potentially, like Stu and I talked about last week, Walsh has still got a pretty good role in that side in terms of getting the ball in his hand early. That sort of changed a little bit with Reynolds back, but there was opportunities there where Walsh took some of the ball and tried to set up some play. So I think, if anything, maybe the return of Reynolds actually impacted himself more so than Walsh's score, because Walsh still did that sort of similar role that we've seen. But obviously, like you said, the question marks are going to be who's kicking. Walsh obviously missed that one from pretty much in front and almost cost them the game. And then Reynolds stepped up. And I think I saw earlier in the week that he started the Panthers grand final 4 in a row where he missed a kick from the sideline. And then he ended their potential 5th by getting a kick from the same sideline. So maybe it's all about Reynolds this weekend as well, and it's just as much his redemption arc. But yeah, I'm going with the Hughes-Ben Hunt combo, and then looking at the Munster as my 3rd, and actually keeping Reynolds out. I'm just see how he goes there potentially. If he does have the kicking tee, then I might bring him into a couple of sides. But yeah, for me, it's going to be Hughes, Hunt, and Munster, which I like that it's going to be a little bit different to a few that we've got. Sif Kang has said that he's going to run the Munster, Hughes, and Reynolds. So I quite like that I've got a bit of a pod running out there in the halves.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident Reynolds will kick goals. It's just one less thing than that Reece Walsh has to think about. You know, he's dangerous with the ball in his hands. He doesn't need to be worrying about, goal kicking under pressure. And for Reynolds kicking that goal obviously meant that he's still kicking him pretty well, but his hamstring should be sweet as well. So that was probably the one reason why they were opting for Reece Walsh to kick, just to, reduce a little bit of that stress on Reynolds' hamstring. But when the points were needed, Reynolds had to stand up. And in the grand final, probably cliche, but every single point counts. And it's probably, a little bit too much to expect Walsh to nail those, clutch goals or the ones from the sideline. I think if Reynolds is, 75 or 80%, he'll have the kicking tee, and Walsh just needs to worry about running the footy and not worry about putting it between the sticks.
Yep, great shout. All righty, let's jump across to the centres, and we'll spend a little bit of time on centre as wingers, and then fullbacks are going to be pretty easy. So we'll finish up in the next few minutes. But centres for me, I also think it's quite easy here. We've obviously got a number of centres, and Meaney, Howarth, then Staggs, Shibasaki, and Karapani, who was playing on the wing but is a centre in GDS. But for me, I'm actually going to run a centre on the bench as well for the first time, similar to what Stu did last week. For the first time this season, I'm going to run the 3 fullbacks. You had success last week, mate, so I thought I might try and replicate that. So I'm going to run the Staggs, Meaney, and then Shibasaki combo. I think Staggs and Meaney are probably going to be played by a lot of coaches. I think that's just a clear one there. Staggs, he's had an up and down season, I think, in terms of GDS scoring. In terms of on the field, he's been unreal. He's had a couple of really good 10-plus tackle break games, and they came against top 8 sides in the Sharks and Warriors, so we know he can do that. And if he does that this weekend, it's going to be all over for the Storm, I think. If he can break some tackles, then I think Broncos just going to be front foot ball, and they'll be laughing. And then Meaney, does he kick goals with Pappy back? We saw that last week. Pappy was back and Meaney's still kicking goals. So I'm still happy to load up on Meaney. Even if he doesn't kick goals, he's still averaging 35 in base and power, and then another 10 points in attack. So I'm happy to run him out and sort of look at that 40-odd as his floor, and then potentially a 45, 50 as his ceiling. So then for me, it's that Shibasaki, I think, is the big pod, and the King Goatee gets a run on my bench purely just because we don't have 3 fullbacks to run. I think centres, there's a few more options, so there's going to be a few more differences. So it's a bit like what Tom was saying before, just throw something at the wall and hope that it sticks. But I'm also pretty happy that out of the 11 games that he's played top 8 sides, he's only gone below 44 of those out of 11, and he's had 46 on average against top 8 sides with a couple of highs of 86 and 60. So we know that he can do that. And he's just got to step up and have a big game. And we've seen big game Shiba come out before. So hopefully we get that as well. And maybe even both centres in the Broncos just have a field day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tommy, where are you going, mate? Where are you thinking?
I actually like what you're saying. If I had Big Shiba, I'd actually have him in. Unfortunately, I don't. The player I have in, I don't love, but, it just ultimately comes down to the player cards you have. I've got Xavier Coates, who has failed to crack 30 GDS fantasy points at all in this final. So it's more out of necessity to fill a squad rather than this is my absolute lock. I do agree with Meaney and Staggs. Meaney's got enough in the tank, whether he's kicking or not, to play him, especially if you look at the rest of the board here, then also he could do the kicking. And then Staggs is just a specimen. What a player he is. Shibasaki, he's played really well in this finals, and he has that ability to just break the game open potentially score a try. And you're looking for those sort of players, I think, in this, our scoring system and how it works. You fellas know it back to front. If you can get a try scorer, it can go a long way in really boosting their score and upping, where they finish in a game. And if you think Shibasaki can be one of those players, then he definitely needs to get into the squad. And maybe the triple centre is not so pottish at all. Maybe it's the go. What do you think, Stu?
Yeah, triple centre for me. I will be playing Meany, Stags, and Shibasaki. Nice. I don't want to alarm anyone, but there was a picture that surfaced from Broncos training. Anyone see that? Shibasaki had obviously been to the barber and removed that very famous goatee. So I don't know if any of you are superstitious and how much of a role that might play into picking him in your team or not.
Mate.
But unless it was a pretty good AI job, I think he'll be coming into the game clean shaven, which is a bizarre
bold move for a grand
choice given how good he's been this season. Look, for me, it's about getting a piece of the Brisbane Broncos left-hand side of the field. So really, it's between either choosing him or Karapani. I've got a bit more faith in Shibasaki, both in attack but defence. He's defended really, really well. He makes plenty of tackles, and Reece Walsh is going to ask plenty of questions down the left-hand side. So I want one of those Broncos. Yeah, Shibasaki's probably going to be the popular one, so there might be a reason to pivot to Karapani. But, I think he'll get it done in both attack and defence. And, look, wouldn't it be the ultimate story if not only did the Broncos win, but Shibasaki took home a Clive Churchill medal as well? That would just be the ultimate redemption story for season.
And Clive on the medal has a little goatee to finish it off. That would be lovely. Yeah, look, those people that are sitting there right now, and similar to you, Tom, you don't have a Shibasaki card. If you do have a Karapani or a Howarth, I would be buoyed in knowing that the Storm allow 38 points to left wingers. So Karapani is definitely a decent option there. As you said, you do want a part of that left side of the Broncos. And then Howarth on the right side, the Bronx allow 34 to that right side. So there's still some chance for those two to go off. I just think, for me, that Stags Shibasaki combo is going to be elite. And then that addition of Meany kicking goals, as we say, or we should be kicking goals, I'd say. Quite similar to probably Reynolds and Walsh. Just let Pappy do what he does on the field and not have to worry about his kicking, where, we've seen some decent goal kicking from him, but we've also seen some shockers from Pappy this year as well. So happy to put that in the kit bag, leave it for another year and come back bigger and better next year, knowing that you've got the kicking role. So just give it to Meany.
Let's hope so.
Alrighty, let's jump into wingers. And they haven't really given us too many options here. 3 wingers. Is anyone game to go the double Melbourne Storm wingers and play both Warbrick and Coates this weekend? Tommy, you're thinking that way? You're going to add the Dean Mariner in?
So, unfortunately, Coates comes in on the bench, so not the ideal spot for him, as sort of mentioned before. But now you've got me thinking maybe I'll make a sub for one of those other centres we were just talking about. But currently, the clutchest man in Brisbane, Mariner, what a guy. He needs to come in. There's nothing about that. He's the big moment man, scored such a good try. Look, a lot of the hard work was done for him, admittedly, but he still needed to put it over and got the job done. And then, Warbrick as well. I think it's you got to pick those two, and then maybe if you feel like Coates can get loose, but I don't know. I think the defensive Broncos is pretty good. I can't see him having one of those games.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Tom. Looking at the 2 finals matches that the Storm have appeared in this year, the right-hand winger has actually dominated in both fixtures. Kiraz scored 50 points and a try in week 1, and we just saw Sione Katoa scored 2 tries. I think he got a 70-plus score as well, and really the only Cronulla back that got amongst the points outside of Kaoliro. I think Dean Mariner, if the Storm are going to be defensively weak, it might be on that wing again. So that also means, pair him with Katoni Staggs there as well. If we expect Katoni Staggs to have a big game, chances are Dean Mariner is as well. For a lot of people, I think the Melbourne Storm winger selection might be pretty easy. They might not own many Will Warbrick cards. I don't have a diamond Will Warbrick. I don't even think I've got a bronze Will Warbrick. So I think Coates might be the preferred option. He's also the known name, obviously playing, for Queensland for a number of seasons as well. But I'm actually thinking Will Warbrick is the play here. I'm going to stack Will Warbrick with the rest of that Melbourne Storm right-hand side of the field. So I'll be running out Jerome Hughes, Eli Katoa, Nick Meaney, and then Will Warbrick. 7-43 this final series. He scored 3 tries. Coates has only scored the 1 try and scored 20s in both of them. So to me, that says, they're favouring that right-hand side of the field. I've played Coates both times, had egg on my face both times. I'm going to Warbrick, and I'm hoping to get it right this time.
You boys are starting to convince me to get off Coates and get onto Warbrick, I think. Look, I did have Coates and Mariner in my side to start with. The thing that, and I don't know whether this is definitely a correlation or a causation, so I'm just going to put that out there. It might just be a bit of nothing in it. But Warbrick, look, he scored a try against the Dogs. He ran for almost 300 metres and had 10 tackle breaks in that game, in the first finals game. Hughes wasn't in that. But with Hughes back in the side last week, Warbrick's output decreased significantly, running only 130 metres and making only 4 tackle breaks. I don't know if that has any link at all, if there's any correlation to that, but it's something that I'm just looking at and thinking, is it just better to play that man Coates? And they were trying quite hard to get the ball to Coates in the air. Obviously, that's a big play for them. He has scored 19 times this season across the 19 times in the 19 regular games he's played. And outside his try scoring, he's still averaging 150 run meters and 3 tackle breaks per game. So you still, I know that some of his recent scores are a little bit down, but you still have that opportunity for Coates to potentially get to that 40. He is one of the only wingers, or he is the only winger in the 3 that has averaged over 40 throughout the season. The regular season anyway. Warbrick's obviously increased his output in the final series and is averaging almost 50. So in terms of which winger to play, I think I'll stick with Coates at the moment. But you boys have really got me thinking about Warbrick, and I know Warbrick, he will play in a couple of my squads. I do have a bronze, so he will come into my starter side at least. And then I'll see where he can find, whether I can find another spot for him. But now that you're talking about the lack of Warbricks out there, he could definitely be a pod.
Don't let us talk you into it.
I love it. I love being talked into things, because then I have someone else to blame. Usually it's people blaming us for what we say, but I can now blame Tom. That's lovely. I love that.
Good shout. Right that.
Alrighty, on to the fullbacks. I don't think there's a lot of chat here. The question probably is, do you play both or do you play one? And it sounds like what we've gone through, that all 3 of us are going to play both fullbacks in Walsh and Pappenhausen. Is there anything that you can see where you might only go one over the other? Tom, is there anything that you can see there that maybe suggests Walsh over Pappy, or vice versa?
Nah, you've got to play both. I guess the discussion, or where the money makers will cash out here, is who you load up on salary cap on one or the other. Like, you got to sort of make that choice. Who's potentially going to be more dangerous? Who's going to be more involved? If it was me, and currently in my classic, I have a platinum Reece Walsh in, so I'm leaning there and going a bronze Pappenhausen. He's just the most informed player maybe in the competition, other than a handful of players in the league. So you look at how important he is to this side, and if it's going to get done from Brisbane, which I'm hoping it is, being up here on the Gold Coast, and I'll be at the pub, I'm sure, watching the game with a lot of people who are hoping that the Broncos get up. I think he's going to impact well. He has that ability to score a bulk of points in very, very limited time. He'll break the game open at some point. It's just a matter of when.
Stu, do you agree, mate? You just lock and load both the fullbacks and load up on one?
Yeah, I think so. I hadn't even really considered not playing 2 fullbacks. I forgot that was actually an option. It was just default, both of them straight into the team. But look, if you want to get funky, there's no reason why you can't leave a Pappy out and maybe play a Karapani instead, or even antipod Walsh's salary instead of going a platinum. Just go his bronze, so at least you've got him. But put a few extra dollars in your salary on some of those middle forwards you expect to go big as well. If he only has a 20 or a 30 game because it's a really tight, low-scoring affair, it's a 10-6 type ball game, you might not get many of those attacking points, and all of a sudden those people that loaded up a a platinum or a diamond, that's where you could get one up over them. So like you said, Tom, absolute been on a tear. He's an absolute weapon. But yeah, if you want to get funky, you can anti-pod that and just go that really low rarity. Or if you want to be absolutely insane, take the Walsh out of your team completely and put the Coates and Warbrick stack.
Oh, mate, let's put it out there. If anyone takes Walsh out of their team completely, sends us a screenshot of the team locked, we might have to do something. We might have to give them something, because they have to be the bravest human in the world to do that this week after what he's been going through over the last, 8 weeks of rugby league. Look, to sort of put it in perspective as well, I think you're right. Load up on Walsh. The salary is where it's at, I think, for Reece Walsh over Pappenhausen. The Storm allow almost 50 GDS points to top 8 sides this season. That includes in the final series. So, look, in terms of Walsh's output, he's had a 56 average in the regular season, around a 55 in the top 8, a 54 in the top versus top 8 side. But we've seen, those back-to-back hundreds followed up by an 80 odd. I think it's a no-brainer to get Walsh into your side. Doesn't matter what Reynolds is doing, whether he's kicking or not, or whether Reynolds is taking some ball off him. I think,
exactly.
I think something similar to what Melissa said is that, look, if Walsh gets binned, he'll come back and destroy Melbourne. I think if anything sort of niggle goes against Walshy, I think he'll just step up and have another massive game like he did the last couple of weeks. So, yeah, I think for me, Walsh is just an easy, like you say, salary pod there, and load up on a few of those salary pods and then know that you've got some risk elsewhere as well.
What's more dangerous, fellas, is a bathroom break and having that magic toilet water throughout the game. And he could come back. I
don't know if you saw, he posted a reel of himself drinking out of a coffee mug that's shaped like a toilet as well. So he's really taking on board. So fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. He's the GOAT now. Look, just getting through a few comments here. Look, Ben Austin says he feels attacked with the blame comment. Look, Benny Austin, a good friend of ours, he does message us each and every week to say that we stuff something up. So he keeps us in check. It's good to know. And Maxie's joining the show. Thanks, Maxie, for joining us. It will be interesting to see how this round shapes out with just 2 teams. I guess that's the big thing is where are all the pods going to come from? Who's going to score the points? And hopefully you've got a couple of the decent pods in your side to make sure you get up near the top. For sure. Look, Tom, thank you very much, mate. I know you and Cal are busy with all your preparations into the end of season, into next season, the prize cards being dropped, etc. Not to mention the AFLW, the football, as well as the Oz Cricket Big Bash coming up soon. So thanks for taking some time out. Before you finish off, mate, who is your one pod for the grand final? Who's going to score that we're not going to have in our side?
Oh, geez, good question. Big pod. Look, I don't exactly have a good one in mind, so don't be taking this and then blaming me later that you've listened to me and keep me accountable at all. But look, Ezra, man, we spoke about someone who could come on, maybe have a try, maybe 2. I don't think a lot of people are going to be looking at there. Look, there's a ton of great options. You explained before the case for Ben Hunt. Reynolds is so good in that side, but he just has that ability, and it just may happen where he could come on, he could score 2, he could just do something freakish, and then all of a sudden that pod has just become a really good play for you. So not very likely, but anything is possible, as a great man once said in the Celtic screen.
Unreal. And finally, mate, is there anything that you can give us a hint at or a preview at for the future of GDS? Anything you can let our viewers know that's happening soon?
Yeah, look, I'm sure you've seen, but if you have a look, we've got a couple of updates and stuff rolling out. You can preview your squad score now on mobile. Just some little things, some quality of life. We sort of hinted at that the other day. But if you want to get the biggest hints, and I can't really give too much away, but Stu, I heard you mention it before I hopped on. Have a look at the survey. Have a look at some of the questions we're asking. We're really trying to dive into your mind, and just as a coach, as someone who interacts with the platform, you are the best people that we can get feedback from, and you're essentially the people we're building this platform for. So if you do want to have your say, have a piece, have a look at some of the cool stuff that we're thinking behind the scenes and, starting to put in motion, that'll give you a pretty good idea about maybe where things are heading in 2026. We're very excited. there is a lot coming, and there's going to be a lot of stuff to look forward to. I know one of the big things we're looking at is trying to get more cards into the game and more cards that are usable into the game. Now, there's some creative ways that we're thinking about that, but these cards that maybe don't get the light of day and maybe only use in the finals, how can we get you using those cards maybe throughout the season? They're sort of questions we're asking and things we're looking to do and to get those cards involved. So yeah, have a look at the survey. Any feedback is appreciated, but yeah, let us know if you think any of that stuff is exciting. You want to see it, your take on it. We'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, mate, for giving up your time, and thank you for an awesome season in the rugby league as well. I know there's plenty of innovation happening throughout the year with the Classic Starter Cup, a few of those head-to-head competitions as well. So thank you very much for that, mate, and we look forward to what's next for GameDay squad.
Thank you, fellas. And before I go, just a massive shout out to the Fantasy Bros. What a season they've had. They've smashed it this year in rugby league. They were in the draft. I wasn't in the draft for Aussie rules, so don't take my advice over on that side. These fellas truly know what they're doing. And as you can see, there's a lot of exciting things going on for the Fantasy Bros behind the scenes. They're looking at next year. They've added. Last time I was here, I was the third bro. I think now I'm the fifth bro. I've just been. I keep getting pushed down the ranks for the Fantasy Bros. Yeah, like you guys have had a cracker year. I know the community loves you. We love having you do all this stuff for us, and yeah, we can't wait to continue to have you guys as a part of this journey with GameDay Squad, and we really do appreciate all the hard work and everything you put in, fellas. I know that'll be reciprocated with everyone watching, and we'll be on to bigger and better next year. So thanks again, fellas. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for the kind words, mate. Really appreciate it.
No worries. Rip in, fellas. Best of luck for the finals. Everyone enjoy the game. Let's get it. I'll catch you all later.
See you soon, Tom. Thanks, mate.
See you, mate.
Alrighty, thank you to Tom there, and yeah, unreal words. Thanks, mate, for that. Look, there's our squads there. A little bit of a preview. The only difference is in our squads, it looks like, is my Xavier Coates and Benny Hunt up against your Will Warbrick and Adam Reynolds. As we probably always say, there's a little bit of an asterisk there that things can change any minute. Obviously, 24 hours, teams get chopped down a bit, and then that final 17. Announced 1 hour before, so keep an eye on the Discord as well. But I don't think I'll be making too many changes. Just probably that Warbrick one is just something to think about.
I was thinking when you asked Tom that question before about his biggest pod, and I was thinking who can be even bigger than a half coming off the bench playing maybe a maximum of 50 minutes. I think I might have hinted toward this during the Queensland versus New South Wales series, but can you look at an 18th man, a replacement in maybe it's going to be Grant Anderson or Jesse Arthurs, who I think were the replacements for both teams last week. Look, anything can happen in rugby league. We've seen it before where an injury or two injuries or, a sin bin through foul play or, a number of reasons why an 18th man can be injected into the game, can be activated. So one of those two guys will probably have 0.000% ownership. You could be the one guy that plugs one of those in just for a bit of a laugh. And if something truly goes against the game script and they do get a run, mate, even if they make a tackle or a run, you'd be absolutely laughing. Imagine if one of those two scored a try.
Look, I think I might do that in my classic side. I've got nothing to lose. I'm going to put in one of those 18th men in my classic side, and I'll make sure I screenshot it and send it to you so we can enjoy some fun. Alrighty, as we showed there, a few differences. Now on to what used to be my favourite part of the show, but is fast becoming my least favourite part of the show, and that is Bro Down Showdown. It's been a bit like that all season, head in hands. Unfortunately, I can get a lot of things right. I just can't get this one right. So, mate, you have taken it out again. You've had an unreal season with Bro Down Showdown. So congratulations, mate. And congratulations to a few of our listeners and viewers who came along and voted for you as well. So there we've got Sif, Walkies, Tom H, Skip, Mel, Maddie P. And if I'm correct, I don't think anyone actually voted for me at all. I think it's the first time ever we've had a whitewash of names going your way.
What would we have done if you did win?
I don't know. Maybe also, someone in the chat.
Also, where is Jay Boney on that list? I think he's voted for me 100% of the season. Has he gone missing? Maybe we need to send out
mate, I did
okay
not see
John Boney.
if he can come on quickly and prove that he did.
No,
I
you're
haven't been
probably
able
right.
to see. Mate, John Boney. Hope he doesn't regret that. Alrighty, let's spin the wheel and see who's going to take the victory today. Get around there. There it is. The man himself. Time for him to get rowdy. Sif Kanga, congratulations, mate.
Nice.
And
well done, Sif.
fortunately for you today, we are opening
Starter pack.
Not that one. Not that one. Sorry, mate. Not that one. Let's get across. That's the wrong one. Let's get across here. Let's go down. Look, we opened it last week. Let's open another one. A common All-Stars pack. And, mate, I don't know what you want to do with this one, but I reckon we give it all to Sif Kanga.
Yep. Sif, you can have all of them. Because I think you've been here absolutely every single show, just like Melissa.
I might need to refresh here. Give me a moment. The old refresh to open the pack.
Be great to see an All-Star get packed. Sif, I'm not sure if you've got any All-Stars, mate. Let us know. Hopefully we can get one for you here.
Oh, I really hope they haven't turned my internet off already. Guys, I'm still here. Okay, here we go. All right. Down to a common All-Star. Here we go. All right, Stu, can you see that there, mate?
Got it. Yes.
Perfect. All right, here we go. Good luck, Sif. Come on, mate. Let's get an All-Star for you. All right. Gold Malu. Not a good start. Campbell Gillard. Robert Toya Silva, not bad. Volkman. Tim McLean. Lukey Roberts. And Timoko Gold. No All-Stars, unfortunately, but a couple of decent cards there, I think, for next year. And Toya Silva and Timoko Gold for sure.
Absolutely.
Make sure, Sif, you hit us up in the DMs either over on Instagram or Discord, and we'll make sure we get those to you. And that sums up the season. That is it. The 2025 Rugby League season done and dusted. One game to go. A lot to play for still for a lot of people, and heaps to potentially win as well. I think that's seasonal prized if you come first as an All-Star, but there's plenty of other prizes for that week. For that game as well. So we're looking forward to that. Mate, you've got the question up there. What's next for Game Day Squad and the Fantasy Bros? Can you give us any insight into what we've got coming up?
Yeah, absolutely. In the short term, we'll be turning towards the Oz cricket season. We'll be taking a deep dive into a lot of the squads, seeing who's changed, who's come in, and what the makeup of a lot of those teams are. We've seen a lot of signing news over the last couple of weeks. Injury news as recently as today. I think the big show, Glenn Maxwell, may be out for the Melbourne Stars. So, yeah, as soon as sort of Sunday finishes, how about we have Monday off, and then we'll get straight into some of the cricket stuff as soon as we can and start gearing up towards the start of the Oz cricket season. That's super exciting in the short term. We'll be getting, a lot of previews out for those teams, for those positions. And then, I think it's early December, mid-December when the school holidays start. I think the tournament kicks off there. So not too long until we're back doing some live shows. So, yeah, that's one thing happening. What else can viewers and listeners be excited for, Dill?
Yeah, mate. Obviously, we're going to have a big competition coming up in the off-season. Mel touched on it. We are going to have a Challenge the Bros afternoon. We'll jump on to Twitch live stream there. Obviously, we've never done that before, so we'll have to give that a crack. And we'll be playing some sports-related games, console games, so PlayStation, etc. We'll give Rugby League a crack. We'll get some AFL happening. The Fantasy Bros will be together and we'll have a few games, and you can jump on, have a go against us. If you beat us, we'll have to give you a prize of some kind. So keep an eye out for that. That'll be a bit of fun. I think I've got a date of potentially the 18th of October. We'll keep an eye on that though, and we'll get some details out for everyone. And then long term, as you said, we've got some short term stuff happening. Long term, we've obviously got a massive season next year with Aussie Rules and Rugby League as well. We've got Haz and Pitty who have joined us. I think Haz is going to join us for cricket, and then Haz and Pitty are going to roll with AFL Aussie Rules next year. And if you're not sure about those two boys, go and check out what they've done during the Aussie Rules final series, as well as the AFLW. They are killing it over there as well. So plenty happening for the Fantasy Bros. So make sure you are subscribing at Fantasy Bros AU on all your favorite platforms. We will be there for sure. And we'll keep all things fantasy GDS related on there as well. Look, thanks to everyone for joining us for the season. It's been an awesome season. We have loved it. It has flown by. I cannot believe that it feels like just yesterday we were interviewing James Tedesco and watching the Vegas games down in Sydney at the casino. It's unreal to think that the season's done and dusted, but a bit of a shame, but also looking forward to the next few things that are happening. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Good luck this weekend, and we will see you soon right here at the Fantasy Bros YouTube channel, Spotify, etc. Thanks, guys. Stu, good luck this weekend, mate. Thank you.
Thanks, mate. You too. Thanks, everyone.